Impossibly enough, Super Saiyan 4 could actually appear in Dragon Ball Daima. While this may seem like just another far-fetched theory at first glance, the mounting evidence in history suggests otherwise. As the most beloved part of Dragon Ball GT, fans have theorized and desired for the return of this iconic form for years, and now I believe it to be more likely than ever to actually come true. There's a fair amount of reasons to explore about why Super Saiyan 4 appearing in Daima actually seems possible. So let's start by quickly connecting it to one popular theory floating around, being that the Saiyans are potentially from the demon realm. This comes from finding out that many races with pointy ears are from the demon realm, and Saiyans in their Uzaru state have pointy ears. If this is true, perhaps this could all be a way to lead to Super Saiyan 4. Super Saiyan 4 is associated with the Uzaru transformation after all. In a way, it's harnessing its power and completely controlling it that led to the transformation in GT. Perhaps being in the demon realm, and if the Saiyans are from there, it could create a special circumstance for a Super Saiyan 4-like form to appear, but that alone isn't valid evidence to make Super Saiyan 4 seem like a possibility, but Daima's connections to GT gives us plenty of this. Super Saiyan 4 is the most well-regarded part of Dragon Ball GT after all, and Daima has already proven its willingness to borrow from the series. Dragon Ball Daima drew negative reactions from the very day it was announced, and much of that was due to its GT comparisons. There's a reason why many Daima haters refer to it as GT 2.0. It's no secret that Dragon Ball GT is one of the most controversial and disliked pieces of Dragon Ball media for a number of reasons, one of those being its approach to making Goku a kid again and the way it was handled in the aftermath. When the first trailer of Daima revealed that the entire cast was going to be turned to kids this time, the GT comparisons were instantly made, and it's hard to deny that Daima isn't directly taking inspiration from GT. We can't definitively say that Toriyama looked at GT and then said, "I want to borrow this," but the clues are there for us to make our own conclusions regarding it. Just as in GT, the Dragon Balls are used by a set of bad guys looking to make Goku weaker. But the similarities don't stop there. In GT, Goku had to set off onto a new journey into the universe to retrieve the 7 Black Star Dragon Balls, while exploring many new locations along the way. In Daima, Goku sets off to a new location as well, the Demon World, and sets out to collect the Dragon Balls there also. The main driving factors are a bit different. In GT, the Earth was set to explode, and in Daima, Goku wants to save Dende, but the parallels can't be denied. GT even made Goku a kid again and took a more comedic approach to call back the Dragon Ball's humble beginnings, when it was a more adventure-oriented story, and Daima has done something similar. The heart of Toriyama's humor can be felt, and the grounded, choreographed approach to the fights are very clear. Daima has put emphasis on the adventure aspect, not so much the action, just as Dragon Ball did in its early arcs. Even in some of the way the events happen, the episodes seem to be callbacks to similar events in GT, such as Goku first going Super Saiyan in each series in Episode 5, though things like that could just be a coincidence. Daima clearly has no issue with borrowing from GT, so why not borrow its most beloved part as well? Goku turning into a kid was one of the most hated aspects of GT, and Daima is seeking to improve on that. And perhaps it could expand even more on Super Saiyan 4 as well with its own unique twists. In addition to borrowing from GT, modern Dragon Ball also isn't shy of rehashing old ideas with a modern spin, as it's also done this multiple times. Ever since Resurrection F, Dragon Ball Super has had no issue with reusing old ideas. Sometimes this turns out well, and sometimes it doesn't. This rehashing of old concepts truly began with Resurrection F. Akira Toriyama decided to bring back the most iconic villain from Dragon Ball Z, Frieza, to be the primary antagonist for the Resurrection F arc. This arc was perhaps the one most criticized in all of Dragon Ball Super. To get Frieza up to speed, he was given a new transformation and was once again showcased in a fierce clash with Goku, just like back on Namek. But this is a reused idea that didn't float over well for numerous reasons that aren't important to this video. To sum it up, fans weren't happy with immediately bringing back Frieza after the success of Battle of Gods, the lack of significant story progression, and Frieza's insane power scaling, and the ending of the movie. But this did eventually set up Frieza's return later in the series for him to be in the tournament of power and eventually becoming Black Frieza, which has been well received overall. We can then turn to the Future Trunks arc for where Dragon Ball Super really pulls from its past successes. Future Trunks was unquestionably one of the most popular and beloved characters from Dragon Ball Z, and as soon as Dragon Ball Super was set into motion, there's no doubt that many fans were filled with hope of seeing the time traveler once again, and they got just what they wanted when Future Trunks returned, but this time his return was met with praise as it set up a fun and mysterious new villain in addition to the nostalgia of seeing Trunks again. The terror of seeing Goku Black, seeing Future Trunks meet up again with the main cast, and learning the identity of Goku Black being Zamasu made everyone invested in this arc. Future Trunks returning was definitely an attempt to take advantage of his popularity, as Toei Animation actually brought up the idea to Toriyama. It was overall done quite well, showing Toriyama could use old characters or ideas and make them interesting with actually good storylines. Dragon Ball Super even brought back the Red Ribbon Army, with brand new androids, a new transformation, and a new villain. This was far more simple though, as Cell Max was revealed to just be a larger, slightly altered design of second form Cell, but it was still a callback to Gohan vs. Cell during the Cell games. Gohan transforming into Beast directly calls back to him becoming a Super Saiyan 2 for the first time, a clear attempt at capturing old nostalgia. We've seen other callbacks to Dragon Ball as well. In the Tournament of Power, we see Vegeta use the final explosion, a direct callback to Majin Vegeta's sacrifice versus Majin Buu. Now, Dragon Ball Super does have an issue where many people feel that it relies too much on old callbacks and nostalgia, sometimes good and sometimes bad, but it still shows that Dragon Ball Super is no stranger to reusing old ideas and borrowing from the past. Now, all these callbacks that I just listed are canon events from the manga. Super Saiyan 4 is non-canon, but we have examples of non-canon events from the past being brought into modern Dragon Ball as well. While Dragon Ball Super used plenty of old canon ideas like bringing back Frieza, Cell, and Future Trunks, we also have a great example of a non-canon character from one of the old Dragon Ball Z movies being remade from the ground up in Broly. When Broly was first announced to be coming back, many fans were rightfully skeptical. They wanted new original ideas to be explored with new stories to enjoy. Bringing back Broly, a non-canon character, was a far cry from that. But then we found out that Toriyama was redoing him from the ground up, taking inspiration from the original Z Broly, but making large changes along the way. This led to Broly with more story to tell than the original. Even Paragus was redone. The designs were kept similar with slight changes, and even some of the storylines called back to the original, such as Broly being expelled from Planet Vegeta. But this time, Broly was created to be seen as a much more tragic victim with a good heart, while Z Broly was shown to have a truly evil heart. The overall reception was positive to the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. While it didn't blow anybody away with its storyline, it was generally agreed on that Toriyama did well with recreating the character for Dragon Ball Super. It even set up Broly to take part in future storylines in the series, as he's been seen him training with Goku and Vegeta. It goes beyond just Broly to even Gogeta as well. Toriyama's chosen method of fusion for Goku and Vegeta in his manga was Potara, to make Vegito. He had never directly written Gogeta to appear in a Dragon Ball story, as the character had only appeared in Fusion Reborn and Dragon Ball GT. Toriyama had no issue finally incorporating his own version of Gogeta into the story, with the same name, just a slightly different color scheme. The entire Dragon Ball Super Broly movie was full of ideas Toriyama put his own spin on that was inspired by old pieces of Dragon Ball media. I would say that Broly is considered the best example of Dragon Ball Super using an old concept done right. This shows that Toriyama and the others aren't afraid to even use ideas that didn't come from Toriyama's pen directly. If they can borrow from a Dragon Ball Z movie, why not keep borrowing from Dragon Ball GT? One major detail that shouldn't be overlooked is that Dragon Ball truly does always come up with new forms. A new movie or series without a new transformation is rare. Battle of Gods had Super Saiyan God, Resurrection F had Blue, Broly had Fusion, and Superhero introduced Beast Gohan. Based on Dragon Ball's track record, the likelihood of Daima escaping out on the chance to introduce another new form seems quite slim. One issue people do have with Dragon Ball these days is how it introduces too many new forms. But with Daima taking place shortly after the Buu saga, we are at a period in the timeline where God Ki is yet to be introduced. Goku's current limit is Super Saiyan 3. Would that be enough to oppose the potential final villain? Fusion is always an option, but the need for a new transformation to bridge the gap in power is also another answer that Dragon Ball has no issue using. When Blue wasn't enough for Jiren, Ultra Instinct was introduced. Dragon Ball Super loves to capitalize on hype from the past. It's why it brought back old ideas like Broly and Gogeta, as they were fan favorites that hadn't been seen in such a long time, and they turned out to be huge successes. Super Saiyan 4 is one of the old, extremely popular concepts it hasn't done anything with. Some may bring up Broly's Rage form, where he's like a great ape in base, as being a non-Super Saiyan 4, but overall, that would be a pretty limited one. On top of the countless new forms from the last decade, what's one more to add even more hype to Dragon Ball Daima? There is a reason that one of the running jokes for Dragon Ball is they relies too much on new transformations after all. If Dragon Ball Super was to bring back Super Saiyan 4, how would it happen? If Super Saiyan 4 is to be introduced in Daima, it would need to happen in a natural way that makes sense and actually adds to the story. We don't want it to be an ass pull that leaves a lot to be desired. We could approach it from the angle that Kid Goku can once again regrow his tail, leading to the transformation becoming possible, but that doesn't have to happen. Super Saiyan 4 can return in a different fashion, or even with a different name to an extent, and perhaps even with a slightly modified design. Gogeta was introduced by teaching Vegeta the fusion dance, and he had a slightly different design, as did Broly. If Super Saiyan 4 does appear, it will have some slight design variations compared to the original most likely, but probably not too far of a departure. To expand on that, if Toriyama were to put his own spin on the form, would the tail even be necessary? Would the way it was obtained in GT stay the same? Most likely not. Toriyama would probably choose to alter the way it's obtained to fit his own vision, and if he wants it to happen, he will find a way to make it so. Another issue to handle would be coming up with a good reason for why the form doesn't appear in later Dragon Ball stories, and Super specifically, such as that it requires very special circumstances to be used. There's also the potential connection between the Uzaru and the Demon Realm that could be used to pave the way to a potential transformation. The form only being available in the Demon Realm could be an example of that. But even if it is just a one-time appearance, fans of GT and Super Saiyan 4 would surely be thrilled to see a modern take on the form introduced. It once seemed impossible, but now not so much. The evidence is there. Dragon Ball now has no issue with borrowing from the past. The nods to GT already exist in Daima, and the need for a power-up could easily be introduced. And all that's left to make it a reality is the desire of Toriyama and the writers to do so. And if it does happen, we can confidently say it isn't the most shocking thing in the world. And if it doesn't, at least we had decent reason to believe it to be possible. Do you think that Super Saiyan 4 could potentially appear in Dragon Ball Daima? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and hitting the subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.